Welcome to Office Hours. I'm Brian Holtz, and today we have Matt Navarre joining us to discuss a very cool search tool. I personally think that the search capabilities in FileMaker are super powerful and often overlooked, and many times users just aren't trained on what they can do um, with various searches. So anyways, I'll let Matt introduce himself and then let him show you guys what he has as far as enhanced searching. So Matt.
All right. Let's see, just a couple slides. I don't know. I put them together because I'm going to be doing this presentation at I think at the Rome FileMaker Week as a session. So there's two things I'm going to be talking about today. I rewrote FM search results. I wrote it a long time ago as a search tool. I rewrote it pretty much from scratch back in February. Because I wanted to get a couple of really key features in there. The biggest one I really wanted was perform script on server. And the only way that I was going to be able to do that was by handing a big blob of JSON off to the script that the server could process, and then the server sent it back to me. So this is not a new thing, script communication. But it was a lot of work because it was not architected for that. So let me at least talk a little bit about me and show some slides about what we're going to be seeing. And get onto the good stuff in FileMaker. I want to keep this really interactive too. So Matt Navarre, I'm with Claris Training. That's me in a suit. Claris Training is my third company that I started. I started 3-1 Software back in 1999, and then AppWorks, originally MSN Media. And both of those companies I ran got to a certain point and sold. So now I'm on company number 3. And I think I'm just going to keep this one just me because I really love training, and I don't think I need a big organization to do that. Search results has one feature that really sets it apart. It's one thing you cannot do easily in FileMaker, and that is gather results from a bunch of different places and put them on one page. So I'll do a quick demo of some of these things that we're seeing there, and then continue on with a couple of slides and talk about some of the parts that go into it. So that means I go here, click that. I really like the feature in Zoom to share part of the screen. Makes the windows much easier. You can size it so that everybody can see. Okay, so this is the screen. And if you do a search for something like Bob Smith, you get results that look like this. So this is, I just opened up this for the first time today, just now before the demo. So nothing was cached. The server's 1,000 miles away from me or so. It's in Germany, I'm in Greece. So this is totally optimized for WAN. And it gets results. In this case, it's actually getting 2 sets of results from the same table. So because it's using a name substitution feature, Bob and Robert Bob. So it has a huge table of first names and their common substitutes. And there's a feature that can do that because so much FileMaker data has names. So a simple one would be like ABC Tech. Now there's a few different ways you can show the results, by the way. Let's do a couple of other ones here, like something really, oh yeah, 123, 503 dash 123 dash 467, a phone number. But if I type that in with different ways of doing it, like without an area code, it'll still find results, even though they have an area code. And it uses some other methods there, like area code flexibility. You could format it anyway, and it can be stored anyway, and it will find it. It'll find dates in multiple tables. So clients and invoices with a date, and also date ranges. And then when you get a list of records, it knows the primary key of all the records. So you can say, list the results and get those records, which you can then work with. So on any record that you click on, because it knows the key and it knows the table, if you just click it, it goes right to that record in your database. So that's kind of a brief tour of the features. I think I'll just put the slides in this window rather than changing screens. So what does it consist of? Really just kind of three things. Some couple of layouts, a single data table, and it's really scripts. So there's some screens that you get that we're going to take a look at the preferences. So the results window, and then a couple of settings windows. We're going to spend some time looking at this one because it's really cool, JSON. And then this is the data table, 4 fields, one of which is a global, one of which is an unstored calculation, one of a serial number, so it just contains numbers 1 through 200. And then the prefs table, which is actually where the preferences are stored when you quit. So it's saved. That's the one place data is actually stored. And then there's a folder of scripts. So I could have written this as an add-on, but I don't like the way add-ons can be removed. It can damage a database because you can create an add-on. You can use some of the elements that were with it to improve your solution and add a bunch of data into it. And then when you delete the add-on thinking it's not going to delete those things, they get deleted. So it was so simple to just copy and paste that I just kept it that way. What it does when you do a search is goes through a set of processes. The first thing is it uses a calculation to determine what kind of data did you just type. Name, was it a address? Was it a phone number? Was it an integer? Was it a range of numbers or dates? So it can just take a look at the data and determine what it is. And then it only goes looking for that, right? So it's there's no point in searching for a date in a field that's a number field or a text field generally. So that's a really important thing. Then it iterates. It kind of goes, I kind of left that step out of here. But if it doesn't find results, for the ideal search, then it relaxes the criteria and searches more. So for example, if it doesn't find a Robert Smith, then it uses name substitution and looks for Bob Smith. So it can do various different things to do that, because if you go to Google and you do a search, you don't ever see no results found. It doesn't do that unless you type, gobbledygook. So the point, what I was trying to aim for was to have it always show you something. Then once it does find results in a given table, it sticks them in a JSON global variable and then appends that as it goes through other tables and other iterations. And then and then it displays the results with a virtual list. That's all. Probably pretty straightforward, I would guess. What slide am I on? And then there's metadata. So the JSON is stored in metadata is stored in 2 places. One of them is in JSON, and one of them is in a layout. So I'm using a function FileMaker where an object on a layout has a name. And so if you go into a field, if you go into an object name, then you can get the contents of the field and the field name. And so those are things it needs to know. So I just had an easy configuration screen, so you don't have to go hard coding things in scripts for what data you're looking for. That will make more sense when we go looking at it. So play with the features. Demo number 2. So settings, and then we'll get into it. So here's how you go through and turn on the data that you want to search for. So for example, if we search for Joe, we're going to get results from a couple places, right? Client and people. If we don't want them from people, we can just turn that table off and then redo the search. These settings can also be stored per user, and you can have a ton of flexibility on how you store them. You can have them work differently on different layouts. So in other words, if you're on the main menu, it can search everywhere. If you're on a client screen, it can only search client, for example, or client and phone number in person. And then so you go through each table. I can turn this one back on. The other thing we can control is how many records it will show when it finds them. So if I want to show 40 companies, it'll give me a long scrolling list of them. So I try to keep these balanced. So it's only showing me stuff so that I can see the whole page of everything. And then these additional features down here are only there. You only turn these on if there's special data in the table, generally. So for example, a company table shouldn't have a phone number in it. So I don't have special phone number features turned on. And then this is also where you turn PSOS on and off. So if I turn it on and do the same search, I spelled it wrong. It's faster. Well, it's faster if you have a really slow WAN connection. It makes a gigantic difference because everything happens on the server. Another key principle in this is it only searches on fields that are indexed in the local table. So if you configure it to do a search on an unstored calculation, which you can do, then it's not going to be fast. So you definitely have to know a little bit about what FileMaker does. A big thing that I preach a lot is find the things that FileMaker does really well and then use them a lot, leverage them. And a couple things that FileMaker does really, really well is a search in a table with any number of records, 1 million, 1 billion, and yield no results or less than, I don't know, 1 million results. It's extremely fast at that. I've actually played with 2 billion records. And if you do a search and find 10 records, it's the same fraction of a second as if you have 100 records. So let's see. The other part of settings is this. There's these layouts that you configure for the fields that you want. And here. If there's a better way to do this, I would love it, but it's pretty easy. Basically, you go to layout mode, and if it searches in these particular fields, and then the results it's showing you are these fields in this order. So let's see. If I don't want it to search on total invoiced, I can just take this off. I think I want to leave it in there for demo purposes, but you can easily configure these. And they're all names. So you can see, like, if you click on one, they all have unique names: text 01, text 02, text 03, integer 01, etc. And then it also has fields that it will display, and then tooltip data. So for when I did a search, let's do a search in company again. So it's showing me company name, city, and state. If I want to see different data, including even related data, like I want to see the company name and then the related contact name, full name, and then maybe something else like the date that they were last contacted. I just change those, and then the next search I do, that's the data that displays. Oh, I think this is actually running PSOS, so there may be a little bit of a delay with that. So or maybe I did something else wrong. The law of demos is something always goes wrong. Let me go back to. Yeah, it's still showing the wrong data. I'm not sure why. Oh yeah, would be here. Display company. Oh, I must have changed it in the wrong place. Because oh, I see what I did. I changed it on the wrong tab. So so the display field should be company, contact name, and date last contacted. But I definitely do not want to search on a related field. So I want to search on the company and the address and maybe the city or yeah. Okay, now this should work. If you spell it correctly. Yeah, there you go. So now you see the data differently. There's no cost in showing related data. There's a cost in searching on related data because it only has to show a handful of records. Also, if 1 million records were found, there's no cost in calculating all the other data that's for those set of records because it's only showing 8. And so it's only looping through 8. So I guess because it has a list, it's loading in the memory like the 50, but it's not loading, 10,000. Let's see. Play. Okay. How's JSON come into this? I don't know how much you guys know about JSON, but we're going to kind of dive in. So maybe some of you are newer, some of you are know way more about it than I do. 2 key things in FileMaker are get and set element, either grabbing data or setting data into JSON. And as I said, search results is completely redone. So one of the things it does is it stores the preferences. So when you click through the settings and you turn features on and off and you rename something, all of these buttons are running the same script called save setting, and they're sending JSON to it with the name of what it's doing. So it's basically saying this is a toggle field if it's off, turn it on, vice versa. And then there's just the name value part that's down here. And then it's reading data from the JSON in the button bar. So a button bar is a layout calculation object. It is one of the most useful things that have been added to FileMaker in a really long time. It doesn't have to be a button. It can just be on a layout and look like text. But I use the calculation function for displaying the text really heavily. And so what it's doing here is it's using JSON get element to grab data from the prefs from general.show underscore tooltips, and then displaying that data on the button. And then over here, it's a little trickier because what these are doing what's the correct English? I'm not going to worry about it. They get data for the specific table number that you're on. So there's one extra little thing thrown into there, which is what table number are you on? So the current table number, CT_num. So, so as I click through previous and next, I'm changing it. So here's what that looks like in Data Viewer. So if I merely click through this and I go look at prefs, the current table number will change from 1. And of course, it's not doing it. Oh, I haven't saved it. Okay, it's making a fool out of me. It's not that because that's the results. Let's look at this. Oh, I know what it's doing. I know what it's doing. It's actually setting it it's not setting it in a global variable. This is actually setting it in a field. So if I take a look at the field that it's setting, I'm just going to add it temporarily to the layout. In my prefs table, there's a text field, and this is where the JSON gets set. So it writes it, and then if I turn a feature on or off, it sets it here. Oh, that's table 3. So if I go to table 1 and turn it off, you'll see it go from on to off right here. This is one of the coolest things I figured out like in a long time. I think it's just so valuable to have any number of records you could look at, be able to add something really easily. If I want to add another feature, I could just add another button, modify the JSON code slightly, and it would just work. I don't have to create any new fields. So you can store a huge array of preferences in one field. Do you guys do that? Is that something that you've done in a solution before, any of you? Crickets?
Yeah, I've done something very similar.
Okay, good.
Very
I
handy.
feel better. So that's one part of it. And then the second part of it is when the search is done, there's the set of scripts that do the magic, right? So let's take a kind of a look at an overview of them first. So first of all, it starts it. And this is where it determines the type of data that it is. Here, data type. So here's a function I wrote a long time ago that that examines the data and tries to determine what it is, and it just returns, oh, it's a date range, it's an integer, it's a decimal number, it's a, you know, so it knows where to look. And of course, all of this is extensible. This is free and it's open source, so you can just change whatever you want to do. So that's one part. And then it hands off information to this one. I use JSON in and JSON out a lot in my scripts. So it's basically, it gets information from that this script needs to operate, like for example, what the data type is. And then it appends the existing JSON with that information. So there's already something called JSON out, and then it adds to JSON out information about the search operator, like equals greater than, the action, like search or refind or extend, and the data type. Then it runs the iterate script down here. Yeah, here's the PSOS version. Yeah, each table. So it searches in each table, which is here. So, and then it goes to the table specified that's passed into this, right? So this gets JSON in, and it has a table number. Oh, this one's actually for displaying results, each table, search each table. Oh, yeah. So what this is a little bit hard-coded, this script. So this is one of the ones you actually have to configure in your script. And this is how you would change the order of things that would be searched. So in this one script is where you actually would have to type in a table number and the name for the table. And these are all pre-configured. I'm trying to think of how much you actually do have to configure on this one. I think all you really need to do here is, because it automatically knows to go to the table 1 through 4. But if you wanted to add like 10, 11, whatever number of tables, you just duplicate this part of the code and add more tables. It supports 99. I think the most I've seen used is 30 or so. So then it basically goes through each table in order. And then within the table, it does the iterate. And the iterate says, first look for the ideal result. If that fails, then check and see if name substitution is turned on. And if it is, look at the name list So there's a, where do I keep that? There's a script called set close name match. And that's the one that has all the, is that in here? So this has all the substitute names in a big string. So if you find an updated version of this, you can change it. But this is where like Robert, Bob, Robbie, Rob, which we just found on the internet. And you could put them in for multiple languages. It ships with Hispanic and English names. So then after, when it goes down from there, from iterate, let's see, find. So after that, it goes to the next level down. It sees if quick find is turned on and it does the quick find. Because quick find is kind of cool because you can actually search for multiple types of data in one string. So in other words, if you type ABC Tech space 5/1/2023, it will actually search for both of those things as though there was a calculated field that had both of them. So that's a cool feature, and it's kind of a hidden feature of quick find that you may or not have even known about. Otherwise, Claris kind of thinks that quick find is, you know, like I think they want their clients to think that that's all they need, but it's nowhere even close to what search results can do. So all of this is black box stuff. You really never need to modify any of it. I just kind of wanted to show you what it does. Then it does the area code work, the unformatted phone work, and you can add further types of iterations that you might want to do here. For example, if you've got a system that uses a serial number for invoices that start in I and a serial number of work orders that start in W, and they're like 4-digit or 5-digit numbers, you could add a thing that says, oh, okay, well, user typed in W1652. Only go looking in the work order ID for that because you know it's not something else. Those are the kind of customizations that are easy. So then here's another thing I think is kind of fun. The whole thing has one perform find function. Down here in line 167, if memory serves, 179. So all of the scripts, all of the subscripts really pass the data down into this, which does the find, and then sends the results out from that. So then now we go down, down, down. Now we're gonna go up, up, up. So if it doesn't find records, it continues on with the next table. And if it does, it goes through the create result line script, which loops through the records and creates the JSON blob for each line. So the type, which is a record or not, the link, which is the primary key, and then the text, which is the text that gets displayed for that particular record in that particular table. And then it just, oh wait, is that the header one? Yeah, that's the header. So down here, we actually have the data. Data display here, I think. Yeah, link text table and the tooltip data, right? So it can also, I didn't show you that, but it can grab tooltips from any number of other fields. So when you hover over it on the list, you can see that. Some other stuff, black box stuff. Then it uses a virtual list. So here's where it basically takes the JSON you send it and navigates to the layout that shows the data. So like if you wanted to show a different style of data, that's easy to do. This script is actually after the whole search is done and you click on a record. So when you do that, it passes into the virtual list the line number that you're on. You just clicked on line 9. And then line 9 says, oh, okay, well, I'll go look at the 9th line in the JSON and grab its information and then process what to do with it. And this is where I'm a liar because there's another perform find in here, which just looks for that one record that you just clicked on. I programmed that lie in advance just for fun. Yeah, that's kind of it, right? So the settings, I mean, you know, there's a huge amount of code, but And all of that happens really fast. Trying to think of what else. Do I have other slides? This is a good example of how the results look, right? So each line has a type. So the very first line is the header. And it will say, oh, I'm showing 2 records from the person table. And the link is empty because there's no primary key for that. So if you tried to click on it, on a result, and you clicked on this line, it doesn't do anything. But if you click on this line, it actually does something, right? Which is kind of cool. It doesn't even highlight if there's nothing in it. And so that's because it knows if it's a header or if it's data. And then we get on the one that's actually data, we get a UUID, the table ID number. So that's where the table 2, we know is person. So I don't use the name, I just use a number. And yes, I use a prefix of 0. And yes, I start at table number 1, not table number 0, because I wrote this thing 12 years ago initially. And then the text it's going to show. And we turn tooltips off, so it's not showing that here. And then if it's a footer, it will say kind of more information there. List 2 results from table 2, and the type is footer. And then also this tells me what I searched for, which doesn't even have to be displayed. So it doesn't actually show Robert in here, but this is actually where it says list 63 results. While I'm here, there's a couple of other ways it can display data. You might not want to go to another layout. You might want to show the results in a portal on the same screen you're on. So you can just copy and paste this and have it in a portal rather than a list layout. Another option is if you have a dashboard, you could have it be in a popover. So the results, like if you do the search, I don't have it quite fully programmed here, but you could do a search like Jones, and it's going to leave this layout. But it would be an easy change of code to say, oh yeah, when you go to the layout, go to this one, and then go to object, popover, and then immediately when you do the search, you would be here, which is a really, really satisfying user experience. And then you don't have to leave. You can just basically just copy and paste this widget and the invisible button bar behind it anywhere you want, and it will just work. And then show you the results in line. Okay. This is the point at which I take questions. I see there's a couple things in chat. Oh, what did I say the hidden feature of Quick Find is? Quick Find searches multiple fields at the same time, and they could be different types of fields. Like if you enter something, I don't know, I could maybe try turning that feature on. Honestly, I didn't really do a lot of testing on that, and it's definitely possible that there's bugs on that feature. But if I turn Quick Find on maybe invoice, and then I looked at my invoices. Let's see, invoice list. If I did something like 2/29/2016 database, that will search both things combined. And it did. So there's the record. So that would be really hard to do without Quick Find, because you're combining multiple types of data. So in other words, if you went to find mode, there's no single field you could type in that information. You'd have to go to here and to here. But if you didn't know if the information was description or address or name or whatever, it wouldn't, it would be harder to do. So you could also type like, I'm not sure what other fields are in here for the search for text. I don't know, probably won't work with the number. Yeah, it did. So I put in a dollar amount of the invoice and it finds those. And if I put even more data in here, like FRNC, like Franciscan, it'll do multiple things combined and it doesn't work. So I was hoping it was going to find that Franciscan glass one. Oh, I know why. It's not searching on the name of the customer because that's related data. And I didn't program it to look for related data when it searches on the invoice. If you want to look for Franciscan class, you would just search for Franciscan. And then it would find the company data. And then from there, you could go to their invoices. All right, more questions. One of the things I could do, by the way, is show you how to integrate this. It can actually be done in 20 minutes. If anybody cares.
Yeah,
You
I'd like
guys
to
are
see that.
You guys are way too quiet. Do you want me to do in like a sample database or one of yours?
If you have a sample, that'd be great.
Okay. I didn't prep for this. Let's see. Can we create a new? Pick one.
I'm not seeing your screen.
Oh, that's because I'm not sharing.
Yeah, yeah.
That's hilarious. I'm like waiting for you guys to talk. I think the FileMaker samples aren't particularly good because they're all kind of single tables. So a question came up. Does it work for finds in external data sources like table occurrences from an ODBC connection? Yes, absolutely. So anything that's indexed, anything that would search quickly, no matter what the source is, it could work. Since it's JSON, you could also display the results with HTML. You could have it do searches from different databases on different servers and then combine the results all together on yours. You could build a huge search, like a data warehouse, and then have the user search the data warehouse instead of a local database, as long as the data warehouse knows the keys in the local database, which would be kind of cool. Okay, so I don't know. I think I'll just pick contacts, even though I think it's only one. This one. And there's no data in it, of course. ABC Jones. And then, put in names, put in whatever. FileMaker samples are awful. Okay, so the instructions to integrate it are right here. There's these 4 buttons. So the first thing you do is you copy the table into the other database. It brings it in with 0 records. It's going to configure that later. The next thing you do is create layouts in the file. So by copying the table in, it automatically made an SR search results. I'm going to make a table called, oh, that's good. Well, I'm going to make a table called SR preferences, I think it said. Settings, SR settings. That matters. If you name it the same, then the script will just go right to it, because scripts, when you copy and paste scripts, they resolve by name of object, not by invisible ID of object. And then the next thing you need to do is create tables for the places you want to search. So if I want to search on address, I want to search on actually contact first. Table 01. And I want to search on phone. Table 02. For simplicity. Okay, now I have those layouts. The next thing you do is bring the scripts folder in. So you can't copy scripts in until there's blank layouts that the scripts can call. Okay. Oh, and some of this stuff is optional features. Those don't matter. Okay, so there's the scripts. Then the next thing is the settings layout, and then the search configuration layout. So there's a couple of layouts in here. If I go to add to your solution, here's the main search layout, and here's the settings layout. So I basically copy all the objects, go to my settings layout, and paste them. Then there's the search configuration layouts, and this is the key, the template. So I copy this one in, and then I paste this into table 01, and I paste it in table 02. We'll configure this in a little bit. The next step is the layout to display the results. So that's this one. So I copy these objects, and this has a nav, header, and body, and it's a list layout. So we have to make a few changes on the search results layout that automatically got created. We have to create a header. And change it to only be list view. I can also, it doesn't actually need quick find. This doesn't have any data in it. And then don't show the record indicator probably. Then we can paste the objects here and then move them to their correct parts. The whole display widget is a single button bar object, not a field. More JSON. So this grabs the virtual list data, and then it has a button to call the script, which we've now pasted in, and sends JSON to it with just the line number. And when I go to browse mode, there's no record, so this is not going to show anything. Next step. Okay, now we configure the search layouts and modify the scripts. Okay, so we pasted in these layouts. And so what we have to do is put in the primary key. And then what fields do we want to search? We want to search on company. And we don't actually have a full name field, so let's just search on last name. Typically, you'd have a full name field that's a stored calculation in a database. I don't like calculated fields, but that's one that's really useful. If there are other fields you want to search, whatever type they are, you can put them in there. Maybe job title we also search. If there's special data, we can put them in there. If there's the formatted ones, like phone, which is in the other table, we could search. I think I did say email. No, I saw website. And then what fields do you want to display? So I will display the company name, the first name, and the last name. Email is a related table. Yeah, so I could actually show that as well. Contacts, email. So I can display it, but if I want to search on it, I would actually add table 03 and then have it be the email search field. That would be much, much faster than putting it in here, because searching through a relationship is, I don't know, maybe 10 times slower than doing it locally in the field. It's a big, big difference. If I wanted tooltip data, I would show those as well. Just double click and say, oh, I want to find out when it was created. And then if you hover over it, it gives you all that. Okay, and I'll call this one contact, table 02, phone number. So primary key. The phone number may be text. and it may be a phone number, depending upon how careful the data entry was done by the user. And it's only going to, oh, here's what I love, right? If it's a phone number, it's actually going to display not the phone number first. It's going to display the contact first, like the company, and then maybe the first and last name. I think if you do a search for phone number, it's probably a good idea to display the phone number so that you actually know why you got what you got. Okay, that's it for that part. And then the next one is modify the scripts. It says there are 2 scripts, but there's really one if you do everything right. And that's navigate to layout. So when you do a search in table 1, which is contact, it has to know what layout to go to in your database, which is contact details. If the search is done on a list, it has to know what list layout to go to. I'm a fan of doing these as hard-coded so that if you change the layout name, if you move it around, whatever you do, it's still going to work, as opposed to storing something that says go to layout by calculation. I don't know. This is less brittle, so this is I think it's worth the price. If the search was done in phone, there actually is not a phone detail layout. So FileMaker has a sample database with a layout, with a table for phone, and no layout for phone, but except mine that I just made, right? And I kind of don't think that's the best practice. But anyway, here's how you can get around it. Since I actually have a layout for phone, I can go to the one I made and then immediately do go to related record to go to the company for that phone number. And then we didn't configure the other one, so I can just comment those out. And then the same thing for lists, right? I can just copy and paste these 2. Oh, there's also a sort feature. So if you want to sort the records after doing a search, you can sort them. That's it for script editing. The first versions of this had a lot of script editing. So my goal with this one was to have as little as possible. And that JSON completely saved me. The other script that sometimes needs edit, depending upon how you do it, is the one that says for each table, where you, like if you want to change the order of these, or if you want to kind of give it the name, like this one is phone. And then these ones we're going to comment out because they're just not going to get done. Okay, we're getting down there. The last steps are the settings screen. So at this point, I have everything from search results that I need, so I can close the file and never need it again. So now if I go to settings, this will look ugly, but as soon as I click one of the buttons, I think, or maybe save changes, yeah, it initializes it and creates 200 records and sets just the default data, and then waits for me to say, okay, what are you doing? So this table is contact. I want 10 results. This table is phone. I want 10 results. That's it. Then save and search and cross your fingers, and no results found. So finger crossing did not help me in this case. Law of demos. Oh, this is a button that goes nowhere. Settings. Show history off. Shouldn't matter. You know, I should look and see what I actually put in my database. Oh, I'm going to copy this and stick it on my layout somewhere. If I have a company called ABC Tech, whatever, if I search on ABC, maybe that'll work. Yep. So it actually is working. So I don't think I actually programmed just to look at the names correctly. I guess. And then I also have it set to look at phone number. So let's see if that works. I didn't turn the feature on for flexible search, but if I put in the formatting, it should work and does. And when I click this, it's going to show me the company, not the phone layout, which doesn't exist. And that worked. Okay, this is when I get the applause. Oh yeah, someone said John. Yeah, how about John and a Mary, I think. I am of the opinion that virtually all databases could use a feature like this, like a little out of the way global field that looks just like Google. Add it to the solution that gives you, all this power and flexibility that you can configure in 20 minutes. Actually, I think it took me less than that. I've done it a few times. It's going to take you a little longer. And then, yeah, anyway, that's my opinion. I don't know if you guys agree, but that's how I feel. You can download this for free at my website, claris.training. There's a link at the bottom of the main page. And then if you find bugs, let me know. I'll fix them and send you an fixed version. Okay, questions?
It is a quiet group today.
Yeah, you guys usually more interactive.
Well, I thought that was great. That is super cool that you can, you can integrate this so fast. Yeah.
Quick question. The initial results, you say limit initial results to 8. Those are just as they occur, creation order, right? No other priority.
Oh,
Unless you sort.
good point. Yeah, by default, it's in natural order. Yeah, unless you sort it. And then if you sort it, even though you're sorting a virtual list, so you're paying the price to sort the whole set, but then you're only displaying the first ones. You could also modify your script to say, I'm only going to be showing, oh no, that doesn't actually make sense. I was going to say, reduce this found set and then sort, but that doesn't make sense. A mod that I put in sometimes related to that is if you do a search for something like, let's see, like ABC Tech, for example, and you have a huge number of them, or maybe like a better example would be like John. There's a guy you're talking to, his name is John, you have 1,000 contacts, you're not really sure which one it is. So if it finds over a certain number of records, you can have an iteration script say, hey, that's too many. Do a search for John, but go look in this field, which is the last contact date, and only look in the last year. And it's like, okay, well, I found 300 Johns from the last year. It's like, okay, well, now I only want to, my goal is like 100, right? I want to find, or even less than that. My goal is like 20. So this is, okay, well, let me look in the last 6 months. Let me look in the last month. Let me look in the last week. It just keeps going by whatever preferences you set until it finds the target number of records, which is the one that has the highest probability of the one you're looking for. So that's a mod I've done sometimes.
And also just kind of for my clarification, let's say there's 1 million records found set, and you say limit to 10. It has to iterate through all those records to build the JSON before it's going to show you the results, or no?
No, it only has to iterate through the first 10. So that's one of the other huge things that I think is that makes it really fast is it has a limit that you set for each table, and it only has to loop through the ones that it's going to display. And then there's that other function that says, show me all the records. And that's when it just shows you the list. Because
So that's what will build the longer list.
yeah, but then it's actually just going to an existing layout. It's not using any JSON stuff there. It's just using your existing list layout, which does that.
Got it.
So there's no price to pay for the JSON at that point.
Beautiful. I got to run, but just one wonderful job. Thank you so much for sharing.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I agree. Great presentation. And see the link is up there in the chat to Claris.training. Matt, I really appreciate you presenting today.
Sure.
And
I was kind of thinking this would be more questions. I could stick around for a couple more. We have 3 minutes.
I don't know if anybody's going to bite.
All right. I'll ask you guys one question. What circumstances, like on a project that you've worked on recently, what are the really good reasons that you wouldn't put this in? Why would it not be a good idea? You're welcome, James. Because go ahead.
That I'm not thinking of one.
I asked that question because if there's some good reasons why it shouldn't go in, I'd like to see if I can address them.
Right.
So multiple fields that are similar from the different table occurrences. John, can you tell me more about that? I think I get what you're saying. So like if you have a whole bunch of tables, if you have a whole bunch of tables that all have similar data, like names, for example. So it's not a table occurrence thing, it's a table thing. So if you have 10 table occurrences for a table called company, it only really needs to worry about one. Although it does kind of need to know which layout to go to. If you have a database with a huge number of tables like that, I would wager that you're not really searching on 130 tables of data. You're probably only searching on, I don't know, 3, 5, 10, 20. But if you're not, we could talk about that. So 130 table occurrences, 60 plus FileMaker solutions. That's like a vertical market thing. Generic text fields are great because FileMaker does a starts with search by example. There's another mod that actually, if it searches for a word that's long, like if you're looking for a word like engineer and you spell it wrong, it cuts a character off and then iterates until it finds the record. So yeah. Generic text fields. There's the question on generic text fields, if they're really, is it slow? I wonder. Because on my testing, it's not. Like if you have 1 million records in a generic text field, and each record has the contents of a book, if the field is indexed and you're doing a search in the table, the search is instant. It's really fast. But if you search for something like you're gonna pay a price on that because you're gonna get a huge found set. So one of the things FileMaker does not do well is return a large found set. Context and use of the word is different. Yeah, that's a little bit more tricky. One of the things that this does not do is relevance ranking. So once it gets a set of records, it doesn't really know what are the ones that you really want. Google does that amazingly, right? It uses it uses a metadata table to say, this particular record has been being looked at by a lot of people. the record also matches the web address. It's referenced 8 times on the page. It's the record you want, right? So it shows that as your first search. Those are really hard to do with Native FileMaker, and this is all Native FileMaker. So let's see. John, you're typing. I would love to just talk. Users won't be consistent in what they're searching for. Another principle that
you answered it based off of depending on what the person is using, like the example.
Yeah. I love your comment about users are not consistent in what they're searching for. When you go to Google and you don't find what you want, you modify your search and do it again and do it again.
Yes. The
So
average user won't.
And,
They'll get frustrated and say your solution is broke. No, it's not the system,
Yeah.
it's the user.
that's true. So that's, one of the things that, that's why I worked really hard to make it find something.
Yes.
It should really show something from somewhere, even if it's not a very good quality match.
Yeah, we're definitely going to play around with it and tweak it and start implementing it in what we have in our environment. Thank you very much.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, notes fields in an ERP transaction, that would be great. Yeah, you could search on notes and like if you're scratching your head, like I talked to someone, we were talking about something, we were talking about green roller coasters. So you can type that in and then it finds the note and then boom, you find the record. That's the way our brains work.
All right. Matt, I'm going to let you go.
All right.
Again, this has been wonderful. And I hope people who are still on go to your site and download that file and integrate it. And
and give me feedback. All
Yeah.
right. I guess have a great day.
All
Thank you
right.
very much. Be
Thanks,
safe.
everybody.